This is a Willets Point Shea Stadium-bound 7 express train. The next and last stop is Willets Point, Shea Stadium.
Oh, yes, it is Anthony Rivera here with you, talking about all the news and happenings surrounding that team from Queens, the New York Mets. It's a Subway to Shea series preview, and I know they're playing the Phillies again. It's that home and home series, so I did the first 2 games on, I think it was Monday. We're going to do the second 2 games now because the Mets are heading to Philly, or they're already in Philadelphia. A lot of news coming out with the Mets over the last couple of days, especially with regards to the roster. So we'll get into a lot of that today. I don't know how long the show is going to go. All depends on you guys, right? I don't have a guest today, so I can't bounce questions off of them, but I got you guys in the chat. So far, 12 people in the room so far. Shout out to Duran Rivera. Shout out to Brad. Shout out to my guy Keith from the Shea and Sons podcast. Shout out to Junior Swingman, who is also here in the house. Make sure you're looking at that bottom. Follow Subway to Shea on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Subway to Shea. You can follow me on X at AntRivera86 and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and especially YouTube, because I am one follower away from 400. So if you can help me out there, tell your family, tell your friends, whoever are Met fans, tell them all to follow the Subway to Shea on YouTube. And make sure you like this video. Let's get more eyes on this video and more eyes on the content that I have coming out for you today. And look, the Mets, we've talked about this. I talked about this on the podcast. I've talked about this on the series previews a lot of times already. The Mets are on this roller coaster ride, and right now they are here at the bottom. Not up here at the top, but here at the bottom, as they lost 2 in a row, the 2 games at Citi Field to the Phillies. They went, I think it was 1-5 on this homestand, and 2 of those games. One was 8 2/3 innings pitched of what could have been a no-hitter, thanks to JD Martinez. That didn't happen against the Braves. And then yesterday, the game against Aaron Nola, who was throwing a perfect game through, I think it was 5 innings. This Mets offense just has not been good, has not been consistent, or they have been consistent. And I say it all the time. They've been consistently inconsistent. And it's been a struggle for this team to produce just getting people on base. It's been a struggle for this team. I don't know what the answer is. We're seeing some moves happening, which we're going to get into. But obviously, as I always start the show off with the recap, and we're going to do that right now. And I'm going to pull up, and I don't know why it's not coming up, but I am pressing on the button to pull up the recap, which is not happening right now. I don't know what's going on, but there's that. And there we go. Look at that. We have the recap here. Obviously, I just said the Mets lost to the Phillies in this 2-game set. Game 1, that was the big one, right? I mean, after the high that we had on Sunday of Brandon Nimmo saving this team from being swept 3 games from the Braves. And then think about this, right? One Brandon Nimmo swing saved us from a 5-game losing streak and a complete loss series at home. Basically, that one swing saved us. And I think I said the Mets were 1-5. I think they were 1-4. Yeah, 1-4. That first game was a big blow, right? Edwin Diaz blowing the game in the 9th inning, not with a 1-run lead, but with a 2-run lead. After Bryson Stott hit a home run to make it 4-3, there was walks, there was hit batters, there was a blown call by a umpire who had glasses on. Maybe he's got to change his prescription. But the Mets blew the game, lost it in extras. Sean Manaea pitched very well, 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 6 Ks. Pete Alonso continues to heat up, 2 for 4, 2 runs, 1 walk. Even JD Martinez got in on it, and he was 3 for 4, 2 RBIs, 1 run, 1 walk. But like I said, Edwin Diaz in 1 inning, 2 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, but he gave up a big home run, like I said, to Bryson Stott. And the Mets lost it from there. Game 2, no offense. And I put 5 zeros in there because it was 5 perfect innings from Aaron Nola. And man, that was just a tough game. I was listening to most of it on the radio, and because I was on the road. And look at that, man. 5 perfect innings. And not on top of that, he got a complete game shutout. Tyrone Taylor broke up the perfect game in the 6th. Jeff McNeil off the bench because he had the day off, had a pinch hit in the 9th. Jose Budo struggled with control. 5 innings pitched, 1 hit, 2 earned runs, 4 walks, and 4 Ks. Those runs came on a hit by pitch and a walk. It's crazy to think that the Mets gave up runs in both games with hit by pitch, and I think it was both to Alex Baum. So, I mean, and like the last line says, the Mets continue to find ways to beat themselves, and it's very disappointing. It's very upsetting. And I just don't know. The Mets are 19-22 right now. I don't know how you fix the problems that this team has been going through with the offense. Outside of now, is it time to relieve the duties of Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes? I don't know if that's the route that you go. It's definitely not the uniforms. It's not the fact that Timmy Trumpet played and the Mets have not been well. Like, that's not it. Could get all the superstitious stuff out of the way. None of that. City Connect jerseys. It's not the City Connect jerseys' fault. It's not the new black jerseys' fault. It's not my fault for going and then being 1-4, although maybe you can blame me if you want to. But I mean, this offense, a lot of these guys on this offense, this core group has been here, most of them, since 2019, right? If you count Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil, Pete Alonso, that group has been here since 2019. You add Lindor in 2021, and this group has not won anything, and they only have 1 winning season. I'd like to see more winning seasons. Before we get to playoffs and before we get to a possible World Series, can we have some winning seasons? I mean, look at what the Yankees do every year. Look at what St. Louis, outside of the last year and 1958-59, they haven't lost back-to-back seasons. Like, let's get some winning seasons in a row here. I don't know what the problem is that these guys can't get it together. And there was a stat here that I posted probably about 20 minutes ago from Michael Mayer from Metsmerize, and he has Mets are hitting 217, 286, 333 with only 9 home runs and 2 stolen bases in May. The only team with a worse WOBA in May than the Mets, 279, is the White Sox at 277, and they're probably the worst team in all of baseball, right? So the Mets continue to beat themselves, and at some point, this group, this offense needs to get it going, right? I mean, I don't want to say they're running out of time, but they're running out of time because at some point, if this continues to go south, and we see what happened last year, the Mets are not only selling a lot of their players. Pete Alonso is out of here, right? Pete Alonso is going to get traded if this team doesn't turn it around. And I don't want to hear at the trade deadline. I already stopped listening to the post-game press conferences and the Mets are climbing up a hill, or, they're trying their best. I know they're trying their best. I know they're not trying to lose. But at some point, the results need to start taking shape. Because if not, like I said, Pete Alonso's probably out of here. And I don't want to see Francisco Lindor look dejected. I don't want to see Brandon Nimmo look confused like they did at the last trade deadline. Well, not so much Lindor. He knew what was pretty much going on. Actually, his answers were the best. But a lot of the players looked confused as to what was happening. And I don't want to see that this time around. If you guys don't play well, they're going to blow this up. And David Stearns does not have, any what's the word to use here? He is not close to any of these players. So, he would trade a McNeil. He will trade a Pete Alonso. This is his team moving forward. He has no you know, close knit group to them. Like he doesn't have to keep these guys if he doesn't want to. And we're seeing that, right? We're seeing that with some of the moves that happened in the last 24 hours. Jose Budo, option to AAA. I wouldn't put too much into that. That's why I made a tweet earlier. I just wanted to know what the reasoning was behind it, but I guess it has to do with options. Jose Budo will be back here, right? Johan Ramirez was designated for assignment. Joey Wendell, thank goodness, was designated for assignment. And I was trying to give Joey Wendell the benefit of the doubt, a veteran guy, the only guy that's possibly able to play multiple infield positions on the roster right now, outside of Jeff McNeil. But Jeff McNeil's starting, so you needed a person off the bench. I've been clamoring for Jose Iglesias to come up here. I don't know if it's going to happen just yet. We'll see. But he's been hitting the cover off the ball down in AAA. He is a guy, a veteran presence that probably could get some good at bats here and could play well off the bench. I think he plays well off of any role they put him in. But Joey Wendell, we talk about the Mets beating themselves. Joey Wendell was a part of that, right? We saw some bad defense from him in LA. We've seen some, what was that game against the Cubs where Sevy was throwing a no-hitter and the gaff on him not to go for the out at home, but going for the double play. And then the other day, in extra innings on Monday, when the Mets needed to tie the game up, all they needed was one run to tie the game, and they couldn't get that. And Joey Wendell, first batter up, bunts to try to get the run over, but pops it up. And at that point, I was like, yeah, it's time. I think it's time to let Joey Wendell go. And I think it was Keith in the chat. He's saying McNeil's got to go just like Joey Wendell. And I think at some point, if Jeff McNeil continues to slump and show that he is a bench player, kind of what Evan Roberts said on WFAN, if you heard him talk about that, talked about Jeff McNeil being a bench player. So, that can come to fruition real quick. And the next step after that is probably being traded because, Ronnie Mauricio is coming back next year. So he'll probably be playing either second or third. And now you look at what else the Mets brought up. Who's coming up? Grant Hartwig. They needed a piece out of the bullpen. Apparently, Drew Smith. Oh my goodness, getting my names mixed up. Drew Smith is not ready to take on long innings of relief just yet. So they brought up Grant Hartwig, who could do that just in case Joey Lucchesi has a hard time getting through 4 or 5 innings. And then the Mets have recalled Mark Vientos. And let me say this. I'm going to get into your comments. Shout out to 32 people in here. Appreciate you. With Mark Vientos. If Mark Vientos is up here, he better be playing. I don't want him having to sit on the bench. I want to get a full eye view of Mark Vientos for the next couple of weeks. And they said, I think it was Mike Puma said that they will be platooning him and Brett Beatty, who has been playing admirable defense, but the offense is really bad right now. And I will get into those stats a little bit later. But great to have Vientos back up. Let's see if he can spark the offense a little bit. We all know that the offense is missing Francisco Alvarez and the spark he brings to the team. I know he was struggling a little bit before he got hurt, but just his demeanor, just the way he presents himself and the energy he brings to the team is missing. And now it's missing from Brett Beatty. That happy-go-lucky Brett Beatty that we were seeing at the beginning of the season is now looks like a shell of himself. Although I will praise him for keeping his defense intact. But maybe Mark Vientos is the guy to bring the energy to the team. And maybe he sticks it out now. Because if Brett Beatty's not hitting and Mark Vientos is, I wouldn't mind having Mark Vientos play third. And you can always throw Brett Beatty in the outfield at some point because, he's one of those guys that can play multiple positions. So we'll see what happens there. Let's go to your comments. Danny Matos says, pretty sure we need to change the mindset at the plate and get rid of whomever is teaching these guys what to do at the plate. And I would assume that you are talking about Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if you guys seen Eric Chavez, his Instagram and what he preaches about hitting and going up to. He's very old school type of guy, old school when it comes to uh, his philosophy at the plate. And then you got Jeremy Barnes, who's very analytical, very by the numbers, very iPad. And I don't know why there's two. I talked about this with my guy Top Bunk Sports, who came on Monday. I don't know why there's two hitting coaches and with a need for it, but the Mets have to figure this out, man. The Mets definitely have to figure this out and figure out what they are going to do, whether it's a change in philosophy. Right now, they're trying to do a change with the players. And if that doesn't work, I think at some point in the next month or two, if this hitting is this bad into June and we're seeing more, close no hitters and close perfect games, I think they're probably going to have to change the coaches. But, you can only change the coaches so many times, right? Because the main group is still here. And that's the players that we need to hit, is those main core group of players, the Nimos, the Alonsos, the Lindors. If they're all struggling and all struggling together, I really don't know what it is that you do with the team. So we'll see about that. Bear with me as I go through these. It's a lot harder to go through the comments by yourself. It's a lot easier when someone else is also talking. But Junior Swingman says, walks are what's holding Budo back. He's pitching well enough for the Mets to win. I agree, right? The Jose Budo has been better than Jose Quintana, who's pitching on Thursday. He's better than Adrian Hauser. He is going to be a part of this rotation. I don't know what you do to help the walks. That's a Jeremy Hefner issue, right? And it's not just Jose Budo. Everyone in the pitching staff, all the way through to the bullpen, has been having these issues with walking batters. And what happens after that? The Mets have one of the worst, are one of the worst at trying to get runners out at second when there's steals. And that's a recipe for destruction, because now instead of, having just a guy on first base, it's really an automatic double and runs are being scored. And that's a problem. That's a problem that needs to be stopped. And to me, that's a Jeremy Hefner issue. I mean, a lot of people were tweeting, oh, look, Jeremy Hefner, look at how the ERA is for the Mets. They're tops in the league. There are a lot of things that I don't like about Jeremy Hefner. I think, he's been here for too long. I think he has survived too many regimes. And although this pitching staff is good and way better than it was last year, which a lot had to do with injury as to why they were terrible last year, I don't like the fact that he waits too long to check on his pitchers and do mound visits. I think that's a problem for me, because he does not prevent innings from prolonging. And then now this whole thing with Junior Swingman is mentioning with the walks, that's a problem. And he needs to figure that out. I don't know what he's going to do to figure it out, but he needs to get that and nip that in the bud. And it wasn't like Francisco Alvarez was throwing runners out either. I think Tomas Nido is the only one to throw runners out at second so far this season. So that's another process that this Mets team is going to have to overcome. There's so much, and they're not hitting on all cylinders. When the pitching is good, the hitting's bad. When the hitting is good, the pitching's bad. When the starting pitching and the hitting's good, the bullpen's bad. So at some point, this team is going to have to come together. They're going to have to find themselves. They're going to have to find themselves and get over what problems or issues are underlying here if they want to be a playoff team. 3 teams make it to the wild card. The Mets should be one of those teams. With this group of players that they have here, with the talent that they have here, they should be able to make it to the playoffs. And it's been disappointing that they haven't been able to. Duran Rivera, my brother from another mother, says Beatty, Bader, and McNeil struck out on 9 pitches with the bases loaded in game 1 against the Phillies. Yep, they sure did. And when they were coming up in the bottom of the 10th, when they swapped out Beatty for Wendell, I had to make a chuckle. I had to laugh. Because you knew that those 3 guys, and it's sad to say this about McNeil, who was the batting champion, that you knew he was not going to get that runner from second. And they weren't going to tie this game. And on top of that stat, Duran, how about yesterday, Aaron Nola, 3 pitches to get out of an inning. That's how bad this offense has been. Brad says this lineup has been too close to being no hit far too many times over the last few years or shutout. It's true, especially last year. Last year and this year, it's too much. It's just way too much. And Rosie K saying, why do we expect that this group will get it together? They didn't get it together at the end of 22 or last year. You're right. They didn't. It's not that we're expecting them to get it together. It's more of hoping, right? They expect themselves to get it together. We can only hope that they do. When you got talented guys like Lindor, Alonso, and Brandon Nimmo in the lineup, you got JD Martinez, who's a professional hitter. Whatever we get from Starling Marte, great. We knew that the bottom third of the lineup, especially now with Francisco Alvarez out, we knew that that bottom third was going to be the struggle. And it has been. Bader's been struggling over the past couple of months. I just don't know. Like I have no answers. I am flustered as much as everybody else here. I wish I had answers. I wish I had, more to give on this subject, and it's just been a struggle. Struggle to come up with anything. Junior Swingman saying Wendell was bad at everything here. He sure was. He sure freaking was. Offense, defense. It was like he was playing for the Marlins again and beating us. My guy, Matt Ibanez, in the house. Make sure once you're done with this show, it will be over before this, but once you're done with Subway to Shea, hit that notification. Go to Till Mets Do Us Part on YouTube. Hit that notification because at 5:30, my guy Ibby is going live solo today. So join his show. He's got a great stuff going on there. You'll probably continue this conversation on there. I'm pretty sure he's got a lot of the stuff that he's going to talk about as well that's being talked about here, but from a fresh perspective. So please subscribe to Till Mets Do Us Part. My guy Keith's in here. Subscribe to Shea and Sons. As I'm going through the comments, if I see any of my other buddies in here that are content creators, I'll give them a shout out as well. So we'll see what happens. It would be also saying Jeff McNeil needs a swift kick in the ass on his way out the door. True. Kind of like, what was it? Jazz from The Fresh Prince getting thrown out by Uncle Phil. Needs something like that. Duran Rivera, instead of sending Budo to the minors, they should have DFA'd Hauser. I think they're not doing that just yet, right? Because I do think that Hauser can provide something from the bullpen. I don't know if you guys follow Carson and Mets Weekly on Twitter, but there was a stat that he posted of Adrian Hauser as a starting pitcher, Adrian Hauser as a reliever. Dude is way better as a reliever, has like a 1.7 something ERA, got even better when he came in on that relief appearance against the Braves. I think it was on Friday night. So I'm willing to give him an opportunity out of the bullpen. Starting, it's done with. He had his time. It's over. Christian Scott has been better. Jose Butto is better. But the reason that Jose Butto is getting sent down is because he's got options. So he'll go down. Joey Lucchesi will get the start, and I'm pretty sure Butto will be right back up. So I'm pretty sure I have no issues with Butto getting sent down as long as he comes back up. Let him fix his issues with the walks. and we'll see him come up because, like I said, he's been better than Quintana. He's been better than Adrian Hauser and deserves to be a part of this rotation, even with the walks. I mean, even though this guy walks batters, he finds ways to limit runs, and he struggles out the gate. Sometimes this time he did not struggle. He out the gate, he did have a bad like second or third inning where he threw over 50 pitches. But Jose Buto, I think, is going to be a part of this rotation, not only this season, but I think next year as well, alongside Christian Scott and I hope Kodai Senga, if and when he returns and if he decides to stay with the team. Ibby saying, call up Hugh Quattlebaum if he truly exists. I always thought of him as Hugh Quattlebum. I thought he was terrible. Awful hitting coach and definitely did not help the Mets at any point in that 2021 season. But as I said in the past, you go back, some of those guys are still on this team that were hitting for them. So do you really question the hitting coaches? Is it the core group of roster? We'll see how they handle this moving forward. Lane Kerner in the house. Let's go Mets. Let's get a win. Hopefully they do get a win and bounce back. I'd like to see that as well. As I go through some more of these comments here. Here we go. Brad, this is a good one as well. Why don't the Mets have fun in the dugout like some other teams do? Bring back the home run horse. I said it before, right? Francisco Alvarez was like a spark plug in that dugout. He was always at the top step. He was always cheering his teammates on. Even on the field, he brings this type of energy. Right now, and you tell me if you guys agree, right now it feels like this team is just going through the motions. Like they are, I don't want to say it's like they're just collecting their paycheck, but it's just like they're just going through everyday game. There's an energy missing. Maybe it's because they're losing. But Francisco Alvarez, even through that 0-5 start, had that energy, right? Brett Beatty, somewhere along the line, lost it. I don't know if it was after he hurt his groin, or his hamstring, but he has not been the same. Even Pete Alonso, who's like one of the more positive guys on this roster, has just looked depressed this whole time. So, and it can't be Carlos Mendoza, right? Carlos Mendoza brings this type of energy for him, and I like Carlos Mendoza as the manager. So, I don't know what it is that you do. I really don't. My guys at the HSP podcast, Brian and Jeff, saying Jeremy Hefner, that's another guy that's like Teflon over there. Like I said before, man, he has been here through so many regimes. I don't know how much longer you can hold on to this guy if he can't, turn this ship around with this team. And if he can't limit the walks, if he can't, I mean, he can't hit for these guys, and he does not control the lineup. So that's the biggest problem. But he can help with the limiting of the walks and, helping these guys get through more innings pitched because they're just not doing it. I don't know if this stems back from 2022 when you had all the veterans starters like DeGrom and Scherzer and Bassett, and they would kind of call off Jeremy Hefner from coming to the mound. This isn't like this. You got a whole bunch of guys who are, I don't want to say reclamation projects, but are searching for that big deal next year, and they could use that help. And to have him come to the mound when, Severino gives up a couple walks and try to just limit the damage, calm the guy down. Even that game against the Devil Rays or the Tampa Bay Rays, whatever you want to call them these days, where Christian Scott, gave up 3 straight hits and a run, and there's no Jeremy Hefner to be found. Obviously, he got out of it on his own, and thank goodness he did. But maybe come out, maybe calm the kid down. Maybe he got a little bit of nerves going on there. I don't know. My guy CP, Mets and Knicks. Salute to you, my friend. Shout out to you. You had a great stream last night. If you're a Knicks fan, if you're a Rangers fan and Mets fan as well, follow my guy CP Sports and make sure you're subscribing to his page because he's got great content, a lot of post-game stuff, a lot of pre-game stuff, and just a lot of good content. Had a great show with the Knicks on their post-game after the Knicks won. So check this guy out because he does a lot of great stuff. And like he said in this next post, Get this man to get Subway to Shea to 400 subs. We got 50 people in the chat. I want to see 50 likes, hopefully, and 400 subs. I would appreciate that. Now, with no one else talking, I got to sip my water because I'm getting a little parched. But let's see what else we have on with the comments here. Lane Kerner also asking the same question as if you DFA Adrian Hauser. And I'm going to say hold on to him right now because I think he could be an asset out of the bullpen. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm giving him the opportunity to. Rosie K, I don't think that this group is going to find themselves. I think that they've shown us who they are. I think that we don't want to listen to what they're telling us. I know I don't want to listen to what they're telling us. The only person that I listen to is Mendy and David Stearns. At this point, I stopped listening to what the players had to say. Right? I mean, there's only so much they can say. And I understand your point of view, Rosie K. I do. There are a lot of fans that feel the same way you do. So, we'll see if they decide to break up this core this year. I would assume that a Jeff McNeil would be the first one to go. I know a lot of people want him to go. And then it would be Pete Alonso at some point because, the team's playing bad. Pete Alonso's probably going to go on his free agent walk here. So I hope it doesn't get to that point. I'd like to keep Pete Alonso, but we'll see. Danny Matos saying we don't get walks anymore on offense, but we walk everybody in the pitching. It's the worst way to win games. It is. It is. I don't know what the strategy is going up to every at bat, swinging at every pitch. There has been now 3 times where the Mets have kind of started this little rally, worked out some counts, and then Francisco, and I'm not just pointing out Francisco Lindor to blame him for this, but these are the instances that I remember. There have been 3 times where Francisco Lindor has come up to bat, swung, and popped out on the first pitch. So I don't know what the strategy is, and we're talking about a veteran guy that's been here since 2016. So I just don't know. I just don't know at all. Duran Rivera saying Bader is supposed to hit lefties and he has like a 220 batting average against them. That's why he hasn't been getting as much playing time. That's why we're seeing a little more Brandon Nimmo in center field. We knew what we were getting in Bader, right? We knew we were getting in Harrison Bader. He wasn't going to hit for much, but he was supposed to be hitting lefties. And the fact that he's only hitting 222 against lefties. Another question for Jeremy Barnes and Eric Chavez that there should be answering. Let's go through some more of these comments. CP saying there's a period where Jose Budo can't be recalled. He'll miss at least one of his scheduled starts with this send down. So I assume it's like a 10-day thing or a 12-day thing. I don't know. But someone did mention that on one of the chats saying that he would, or in one of my comments saying that he would have to, wait a week or 2 before he was able to come back up again. And if so, you'll probably see twice a Joey Lucchesi. At some point, the hope is that this team goes to a 6-man rotation. That's the hope, at least I'm hoping for. But they can always bring up Tyler McGill, right? Tyler McGill can come up if they send Joey Lucchesi down, and then we'll get ready for Jose Buto's return. This is a good comment from HSP Podcast. They're boring to watch. I think Keith said the same thing. They are... I don't know. Like, I used to be excited to watch offenses come up to bat on Mets teams. 2006, I couldn't get my eyes glued off of them. 99, 2000, 2015 in the second half. But yeah, this offense needs some kind of spark, and I don't know what it is. Hopefully it's Mark Vientos. I hope it's Mark Vientos. Not saying it's going to be. But Duran Rivera, it's been more than one occasion where Diaz gets squeezed by umps or has bad calls on check swings. This is true, and we're looking at that game on Monday where an umpire with glasses bigger than mine could not make the correct call. It wasn't going to be the final strike, but it could have helped. It would have made it 3-2, and we wouldn't have walked in a run here. So It stinks that they did, and you just got to move on and hope that they somehow come back tonight's game, which is at 6:40, I think. So it's an early game today. Jose Lopez Moya, this team reminds me of the TV series The Walking Dead. It's a team with no leadership from the manager on down. They had leadership when Canna, Escobar, and Pham were there. They also were losing when those guys were here too. You know, can't in 2022 it was all well and good until they fell apart at the end. Last year, they weren't good. Escobar got traded, Canna got traded, Pham got traded. And Escobar was pretty much awful last year. I'm a huge fan of Escobar. I got his poster right here, but yeah, I mean, he was awful. Canna was just so up and down. And Pham was the best part, but then he eventually got traded. So I don't know how much their leadership really helped the team. Not saying you're wrong that they were leaders on the team, but it just it didn't translate to wins, right? And obviously the offense wasn't better, right? So I don't know. I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't say I totally disagree. I don't 100% agree. Bearded Mets banner says Hauser's an interesting bullpen piece, worth the shot. Like I said, let's see what he's got out of the bullpen. I know that he was getting warmed up a couple times last night, and maybe that's the reason why he didn't start, or they just don't want him to start and they want Joey Lucchesi up. But I agree what the whole decision is on this. KWR550 saying what I say every week. These Mets are consistently inconsistent since last year. You can go all the way back to the end of 2022. Same thing. Same thing. They have been inconsistent. Ibby. Beatty is slashing 230, 292, 317. Over the last 7 games, he's 1 for 22. Before Tuesday's loss, Mendoza said he considered giving Beatty a day off. From the manager's view, Beatty has been too passive. Mendoza doesn't hold back on his thoughts on this team. He didn't hold back on Hauser. He's not holding back on Beatty. It's good. So early in the counts and then chased too much once he fell behind against lefties. Beatty has a 476 OPS. Woof. That's awful. That 3-pitch bottom of the 7th was ridiculous. Yeah, it was. I think it was Duran Rivera who brought up the 9-pitch strikeout, the 3 strikeouts with 9 pitches, and then this 3-pitch bottom of the 7th helped Aaron Nola. He didn't need help from that. He was going to get a complete game anyway. But definitely helped Aaron Nola get through that. Jose Lopez Moya saying trading Alonso will be a bad move on the long run. I totally agree. I think that Pete Alonso is a guy that has to be on this team. Yes, he had a huge slump. We're going to get into his stats over the last, week or so. He has had some long slumps. He had it in 2020. He had it in 2021. He didn't have it so much in 2022, which I think is his most complete season. And then last season, after he came back from getting hit on the wrist too early, he had a long slump then. So I don't want to give up on Pete, man. I really don't. And I wish he stays with the team. My guy Ibby saying Pete is not the problem. Team building has failed Pete. He is part of the solution. I agree. The team building has failed these guys, whether it's with coaches, whether it's with the lineup. They have not helped out at all. So, Bearded Mets banner agreeing with me. The downturn started that easy September of 2022. Yes, it did. It totally did. Had a rough September. You go and end September with that gut punch from the Braves and then that knockout punch by the Padres, and they haven't been the same since. Junior Swingman saying they need to get more athletic. You would love to see it. I would love to see it for sure. This is a team that could use a lot more athleticism. Get away from the Joey Wendells of the world. HSP podcast going back to Pham. Pham's comments still haunting this team to this day. I mean, he had a lot to say, and I'm pretty sure there are truths as a part of his, comments. And everything always leads back to Jeff McNeil for some reason, right? I think a lot of people thought that the comments were about Jeff McNeil. You go back to 2021 with the whole raccoon situation. Is Jeff McNeil the problem? I don't know. Could be. I'm not a part of the clubhouse, so I don't want to be one of those guys that brings up this and acts like, just to get views as if I know Jeff McNeil's the problem. But Fam's comments had a lot to do. He's a part of that. He was a part of that clubhouse. Had a lot to say on that. CP saying that tweet about the Mets hitters OPS on the road versus at home is absurd. What's your take on this? CP, is this also in regards with like the Jumbotron screen and the batter's eye at Citi Field not being good? Is that, I don't know if that's the same. I don't know. Look, ever since the Mets left Shea Stadium and went to Citi Field, their hitting has not been good whatsoever. Yes, they had a good 2015. Yes, they had a good 2016. Could thank Kevin Long as the hitting coach for that. And 2022, outside of that, they have not been good at Citi Field hitting. I know they wanted to make it a pitcher's park. I know they wanted to create the park for Jose Reyes, who they then decided not to sign. But how much more can you I think the Mets have moved in the fences enough, right? Because remember that great wall of flushing that they had? They got rid of that, brought the fences in and everywhere. I don't know. I would hope that that's a question that is asked to the players at some point from the media. I hope that they do ask. They probably won't give you a straight answer because they don't want to blame anything else but their bad play. But that's interesting. It's definitely interesting to say. Did we hit 400 subs? Appreciate you all. Appreciate you all for helping me out. Cheers, everybody. Appreciate that whole thing. We got 77 people in here right now just to hear me talk, which is crazy to think. Shout out to all you guys. I mean, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you doing this. I'll be honest, I was never really a great public speaker. This is still different. I'm not speaking in front of a lot of people, but I am talking. I think that QBC was very helpful for me. Just talk in front of people. If you ever been to the QBC, the Queens Baseball Convention, you definitely should check it out. It's a very fun convention for Met fans. I appreciate that. But thank you, everyone. Thank you for liking this video, for sharing it. Let's get it out there. Let's have, a lot of people see this and join in on the chat like we're doing right now. HSP saying, I love Pete, but he's starting to give us Adam Dunn vibes the older he gets. I don't know, right? Like, I can't say that you're wrong right now, but because his average is low, right? That Ryan Howard, like all power, no average. A lot of people don't even like average these days. Like, I'm still one of the purists that still somewhat likes average. I won't say it's the end all be all, but I do like a nice, 250 to 280 type of hitter. Even with power is very helpful. And to have guys like Kyle Schwarber, who's batting like 210 from the leadoff position with 50 home runs and 100 RBIs, you got to be some type of an elite talent to do that. Deron Rivera, this is good because I was thinking about this. The Mets need a bat like Cespedes in 2015 to provide a spark. He carried the Mets this year. Here's the problem. And I agree with you. I think a spark, and it was probably supposed to be JD Martinez. But, it's still the core group that's not hitting. Like, I think we can all do if Brett Beatty doesn't hit, Tomas Nido doesn't hit, but when everybody else is not hitting, that's a problem. And the fact now that we have 3 teams in the wild card hurts a lot of teams' chances of making trades at the deadline, big ones. Because one, you're now going to have to pay a premium to get players over because a lot more teams are involved at the trade deadline. A lot more teams are still in the playoff hunt. So certain players are going to go to the highest bidder and you're going to have to spend more. Look, we couldn't even get David Robertson in 2022. We couldn't even get Brandon. Is it Brandon Drury? I can't remember the guy who used to that we had to go for Ruff and Vogelback instead. We couldn't even get Drury back here. So I think that that's something that the Mets need to look into, as well as all other teams. Like it's not easy. We're not going to get these many crazy blockbuster deals anymore. I don't think, because I think more teams are still going to be hovering around, still going to be deciding if they are going to go for it and make moves. You can go for it like the Angels and completely blow it and be terrible, or you could sit back and not make a move, or you could trade like the Mets did at the trade deadline. But these big moves, I don't know if we're going to see as much of them anymore because of the way that the trade deadline is structured and the way that there's more teams now involved in the playoffs. KWR550 says, remember the June soon is coming. I hope not. I really hope not, man. I really, really, really hope not. Jose Lopez Moya, I think Mendoza has overworked Lopez from the bullpen. Heck, the man doesn't have a rubber arm. There's like, I don't really know what Mendoza's supposed to do, though. What is he supposed to do? Like, I understand, like, Lopez is getting overworked and you see him getting tired, but he's overworking everybody because we're not getting length from these starting pitchers. A lot of these starting pitchers are giving up walks and are, they're not going the distance that they should be. It stinks, but I don't know. I think Jorge Lopez is going to be fine. They keep interchanging other pieces like Grant Hartwig, Yohan Ramirez, Drew Smith's coming back. So I think they'll get some help in that point, but they start needing these starting pitchers to go 6-7 innings to help out here. They really do. Bearded Mets Banner says their drafting and signing shortstop is a sign of them going for athletic players. Yep. They've been signing a lot of those, whether drafting them or signing them during the international signing period. So you're definitely seeing a lot more athletic guys coming down the pipe for the New York Mets. Yuki Matsui on the John Boy Media podcast, Zach Short didn't throw the Mets under the bus, but he said the Braves locker room culture are far superior. Of course, right? I mean, they're winning, right? They have almost an all-star at every position. They're one of the top teams in the league for over a decade or so. That culture is way better. I know Steve Cohen is trying to change the culture here. He's done it in a good way when it comes to the fans and providing them with experiences. But now the product on the field needs to change, right? It needs to get better. If there's something wrong in that Mets locker room, that's a player's thing, right? Who is it? Like, is it McNeil? Some people said Pete, which I don't believe. But I'm also not, like I said, I'm also not in that locker room. So, Zach Short's probably right. It's probably when you're winning, the culture is going to be amazing. And when you're losing the way the Mets are losing, it's going to be awful. Definitely is going to be awful. I hope it changes. I wonder how the culture in the 2022 locker room was for the Mets. I have not heard any bad things about that one, right? So just a lot of it has to do with winning. There could be some bad seeds in the locker room. I don't know who they are. I don't know if they are, but there could be. Once again, shout out to 77 of you guys that are in this. I'm going to get to the series preview. I always do it late. It's always one of the last things, even though I call this show the series preview. But let's look at what's coming up in these next two games in Philadelphia. We got Joey Lucchesi on the mound making his season debut, going up against Ranger Suarez, who's 7-0 with a 1.50 ERA. And then Jose Quintana, 1-4 with a 5.44 ERA, going up against Taijuan Walker, who's 3-0 with a 4.82 ERA, former Met. I always liked Taijuan Walker. I know he always got out to really good starts for this, anywhere he's gone out to a really good start and then kind of shut it down in the second half. But I've always liked Taijuan Walker. I didn't want to see him leave, but I wasn't going to give him the huge contract that he wanted. How about Ranger Suarez? 7-0. I don't even know if the Mets starting pitchers combined have 7 wins. I know that Manaya has 2. Budo has 1. Sevi, I think, has 2. Quintana has 1. And that's it. Ranger Suarez has more wins than the entire starting pitching staff of the Mets. How crazy is that? That is absolutely crazy. And usually I have a guest to ask which pitching matchup you want to see the most out of these two. I definitely don't want to see I just don't want to see Jose Quintana after the last couple of starts. I am interested in seeing what Joey Lucchesi provides and if the Mets can I want to say solve Ranger Suarez, but I feel like Ranger Suarez, you talk about what Aaron Nola did the other night against the Mets. Could you imagine back-to-back days of the Mets being almost no hit or a perfect game because Ranger Suarez is going to deal? The Mets, first off, the Mets struggle against left-handed pitching. And Ranger Suarez is one of the top left-handers. It's like a recipe. Like, you can already see it happening. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer and be one of those. But, man, like, the proof is in the pudding, right? We've seen too much. We've seen the results. And that's where things are going to get crazy here. So, look, hopefully Joey Lucchesi can come out and give the Mets at least 5 or 6 innings. And then it's up to the offense. You could bring up any pitcher you want up here. You could bring up Matt Harvey for the first time, Jacob deGrom, Zach Wheeler, Tom Seaver, Doc Gooding. You could bring them all up on this team. If this team is not going to hit at all or provide any offense, then there's really no point. But hopefully Joey Lucchesi keeps this team in the game. And that's what the starting pitching has been doing. That's what the bullpen has been doing, has been keeping these guys in games. My guy, Shea parking lot in the house. Let's go, Chervin. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's hope Joey Lucchesi got that Cherv on lock tonight against these Philadelphia Phillies. Duran Rivera is saying if Pete Alonso could walk as much as Schwarber and hit 230 with the 45 bombs and 120 RBIs, I would take lower batting average, but Alonso, until recently, has been chasing bad pitches. I mean, I feel like Alonso was always chasing bad pitches, not to the extent he has been this season. And he's been missing some pitches down the plate as well. It's not just those that are like in the dugout that he's swinging out. He's missing some pitches right down the plate. So yeah, I hope that he can, if he does 230, 45, 120, more power to him. More power to him. I just don't want him hitting 217, 219, 210. I don't want to see that. Get on base more. Score some runs. Let's go. Shea parking lot saying Doc 1-2, DeGrom 3-5, Seaver 6-8, Diaz in the only. Could you? No, you know what? You know what, Shea? You don't even need that. Doc could give you 9 innings in his sleep, and so could Seaver. DeGrom will probably go 5 innings, right? But Seaver could give you 10 innings in his sleep. Doc can give you a complete game. He almost did a complete game a night in 85. Those two guys were built out of different molds. I'll say that for sure. All right, I want to do I always do this during every series, and that is matchups to watch out for. There's not too much for the Phillies against Joey Lucchesi. There's only a couple at bats, so I did not do any for them. But Francisco Lindor, batting .250, 1 home run, 1 RBI, 750 OPS in 12 at bats against Ranger Suarez. Francisco Lindor bats better right-handed. So we'll see if he can solve the Ranger Suarez problem. He's been struggling over the last 7 days, so that's a little bit of a concern for me. But at some point, Francisco Lindor really needs to heat up. And I'm talking about going on a good long run like he did last season. And hopefully we see that. On the other hand, a matchup to watch out for, Nick Castellanos, 273 batting average, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, and a 774 OPS in 44 at-bats against Jose Quintana. I am deeply concerned for Jose Quintana in this bandbox. It's crazy that he had gotten 2 outs before he gave up 3 home runs to the Atlanta Braves at Citi Field. How crazy is that? And now you're putting him in that bandbox against Nick Castellanos, against Bryce Harper. I don't care that he's a lefty, and I don't even care that Kyle Schwarber is a lefty, because look at this. Kyle Schwarber, 308 batting average, a home run and 4 RBIs, 923 OPS in 13 at-bats against Jose Quintana. Watch out for Kyle Schwarber tomorrow against Jose Quintana. And one more on the Mets side. I have JD Martinez, who's been heating it up. Has a 500 batting average, 1 home run, 3 RBIs, and a 1.286 OPS in 14 at-bats against Taijuan Walker. I would like to see him feast off of Taijuan Walker and his pitching. A new little thing that I want to do is the who's hot, who's not for the New York Mets right now. And I'm going to do that shortly. I want to just see the other comments we have here. The Shea parking lot saying, give Vientos at bats. And my friend, he is going to get at bats. Today, he's batting 5th. He's playing third base. They're going to give him his at bats. And I think he's going to start getting a lot more at bats than Brett Beatty. I think they're going to do a platoon right now. And whoever takes off, if anyone takes off, will be the starting third baseman. And if not, more platooning. But I want to see Vientos get as many as bats as you want to see him get as many as bats. So hopefully he does get these at bats. Hopefully we'll see that because he's a part of my who's hot. Mark Vientos, 429 batting average, 1 home run, 2 RBIs, and a 1.286 OPS in the 7 games that he's been playing so far. Those are the games that he got into so far this season. So let's see him get more, because you go to who's not hot, Brett Beatty. Look at that batting average. On base percentage and slugging all the same, 0.045. We're not even talking below the Mendoza line. I mean, this is the deep depths of awful hitting. 0.45 batting average right now. I don't know what has happened to Brett Beatty, what kind of slump he is in. I think Ibby mentioned it earlier. I'm glad he did. I'm reiterating it. 1 hit in 22 at-bats in last 7 games. It's been a struggle for him. Got 2 more for you. Who's hot? Pete Alonso, 333 batting average, a home run, 6 RBIs, 2 walks, 4 runs, 1.010 OPS in his last 7 games. Keep heating up, Pete. We want to see it, and I want to see more power. And what perfect place to hit for power than in Philly? I want to see a couple of home runs from Pete Alonso. I will be disappointed if I don't at least see 1 or 2 home runs from Pete Alonso in this 2-game set. Very disappointed. One more of who's not hot. We talked about it. Jose Quintana in his last 7 starts, 1-3, 5.65 ERA. He's given up 40 hits, 23 earned runs, 16 walks, and has only struck out 24 batters. He's having a hard time putting batters away because he just doesn't have that put away pitch. He's got to rely on contact. He's got to rely on working the count. And right now, that's not working for him. So those are your who's hot and who's not players for this series. As we wrap up the show, Shea parking lot, losing is hot, offense is not. Yes, that is true. Duran Rivera saying, Mets don't create runs like other athletic clubs who steal because these players are in the minors. They also rarely make productive outs like sac flies. Look, that's a big thing for me. Make a productive out. Move the runner over to second or third. Sac fly. Too many strikeouts are happening right now and not enough run production. We talked about how the Mets preached run prevention. The offense is run preventing themselves. That's for sure. Bearded Mets banner. I like to see it. Pete's hitting 2 jacks tonight. I hope so. Like I said, I want to see 1 to 2 home runs in this series for him. If he does 2 tonight, even better. And I'd love for Pete to do that and get this offense going. Junior Swingman Forget about putting the Phillies in a body bag. Let's put this early season Mets team in a body bag and finally become a consistent winning team. Preach, man. Let's do it. I want to see a consistent team, and I want this team to get going. They have to. In reference to Quintana, he's like Butch's girlfriend, Wolf, Home Alone reference. It's one of my favorite movies, one of my favorite Christmas movies, probably my all-time favorite scene, and I use that gif all the time, especially when it comes to this Mets team. I use that Wolf. So I definitely know where you're coming from, Shea Park. We're on the same page with pop culture, my friend. I know it. I know it. Patty in NYC. Late again. I'll watch this when I get home. Too busy at work. All good. This will be up this is going to be up forever, but like on YouTube, you can watch it. You don't have to watch it live, but grateful that you are in here. You want home runs. I want home runs. We all want home runs. Let's see some Mets hit some home runs in that bandbox and get 2 wins. Hey, man, if they get these 2 wins back, obviously it's a part of that roller coaster ride, but get those 2 wins back in Philly. It'd be nice to see. Not saying it's going to happen, but we all want it to happen. So hopefully that happens. We're going to wrap up the show here. It's about 4:30 right now. We got 84 people. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you're subscribing. Now I found out we have 400 subscribers, so thank you for that. Let's keep subscribing. Let's keep watching. We will have the next series preview will be Friday, as the Mets get set to take on the Miami Marlins. And if the Mets are not sweeping the Miami Marlins, we have a problem. So hopefully that series preview, which will happen probably around the same time. I'll try to get a guest, may do it again by myself because this was a lot of fun chatting with you guys. But the Mets have to, like Shea Parking Lot says, has to get hot before the dreaded June. Bearded Mets banner is my guy. Yes, my guy, Sofrito. How you doing, man? Great to have you a part of this and be a part of the whole show in the comments. This is a lot of fun for me. I love doing this. Yuki, you are the man. You are the man. And one more time, shout out for my guy, Ibby. Make sure you're tuning in 5:30 today. Set your timer, set your alarm, whatever you got to do. I think you can set an alarm on YouTube too, or some kind of notification that Till Mets do his part coming up 5:30 p.m. today, leading up to today's game that starts at 6:40. I hope you guys get to enjoy that. A couple of other notes. Like I said, you'll get to see the next series preview Friday at 3:30 p.m. I'll be here with you guys to talk about the Mets and the Marlins. Tomorrow, I'm going to be recording the Subway to Shea podcast, which you can get on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Hopeful to have a guest, and that guest is hopefully going to be John Minconi of Brella Sports. My guy Ibby knows him very well. But the hope is to have John Mincone come on. That podcast will probably be out Friday as well, depending on, my how I'm able to get it out because I got to edit and stuff like that. And then I also, tomorrow night, I don't know if it's going to be, right now it's set for 9 p.m., but every Thursday, Mets Evening Brew on the Morning Brew Sports Network. Me, Al Centrone of WFAN, and Eddie Presti will go through all the Mets news that's been happening over the past week. Check that out, 9 p.m. or following the game on Thursday. I'll probably hit you up with some notifications on Twitter and stuff like that, so be on the lookout for that. But this has been a lot of fun for me. I never thought I can go an hour by myself talking with you guys, but I have. You guys have helped me out. I love the chat. I love talking with you guys, and this has been so much fun for me, and I look forward to seeing you guys on Friday, 3:30 again for another series preview, Mets and Marlins. But for Anthony Rivera and Subway to Shea, as we always like to end the show by saying, let's go Mets.